and welcome to the third installment of A Captain's Analysis. This time I want to talk about ship builds. As many of us know, Guns of Icarus is a team-based game. Matches require at least a 2v2 setting. Thus, it is important to select a ship and its guns based on what the other ships on your team are bringing. You want synergy. With that in mind, let's discuss ship builds. To understand ship builds, we must understand the general strategy of a ship. A few people on Guns of Icarus have decided that ships, and the guns mounted on them, can typically be placed into three categories: aggressive, reactive, and control. Aggressive ships are ships that are capable of doing high DPS, usually from close range, though not required. A fitting example would be a Pyramidion with Gatling and Mortar. Another example would be a Watch's Fire. Reactive ships are those that require proper positioning prior to engaging the enemy, oftentimes relying on the enemy to be the aggressor. An example of this would be a Modula with Hades and Artemis, and the Galleon with Lumberjack, Flak, and Hades. Control ships are those that take away altitude, space, and or guns from the enemy. A Squid with Mines and Banshee or a triple Artemis Junker are fine examples. Now, how about ships that fall into more than one category? Is that a possibility? Well, I didn't mention the goldfish yet for a reason. The Watch a Fish with a Gatling on the side is a good example of how aggressive and control can be combined. The next talking point is figuring out how to combine guns on specific ships to create the general strategy that you want. To do this, you must first understand what each gun's primary role is. I'll place the guns into the following categories: kill, disable, and hybrid. The following guns are kill guns: Gatling, Mortar, Heavy and Light Flak, Hades, and Mercury. The following guns are disabled: Artemis, Heavy and Light Carronade, Mine Launcher, and Lumberjack. And the following two guns are hybrids: Watcha and Banshee. Now, you might be triggered at this point. Solidus, why is the Mercury labeled kill? It can disable too. And to that I say, you're right. However, it shouldn't be used to disable unless it's an emergency. This is because, typically, any ship equipping a Mercury is usually lacking any other armor breaking potential while that Mercury is in arc. Therefore, it should be purposefully fired at the hull to destroy armor. Next, you might ask, why the Artemis is not a hybrid since it can also kill? Well, it should always be disabling the enemy. Eventually the armor will break and some damage will be done, but blindly shooting the Artemis is a waste of ammo and can cost you a good disable. The Artemis gunners should be saving their shot or reloading when the enemy ship is fully disabled. Another questionable gun is the Banshee. I labeled it as a hybrid because of its potential to cause fire stacks to a balloon, or at least force the continuous chem spray, and the amount of damage it does to a balloon despite the lack of fire is enough to pop it in due time. Where's the flamethrower and Minotaur? Neither of these guns are consistently reliable. They're easy to counter. Chem spray easily counters the flamethrower's effectiveness on the armor and balloon, while a fire extinguisher can eliminate any fires on the guns and engines. Meanwhile, the Minotaur is easily countered by a pilot with kerosene. No doubt the Minotaur and flamethrower have huge potential to cause a lot of problems, but there are other options that have a higher success rate. What about the flare? You should be using it to eliminate clouds. If you want potential fire stacks, then you should load up the Banshee or a carronade with the incendiary. In the chance the ship is chem sprayed, then at least you know you are doing some raw damage as opposed to nothing. Harpoon has a high chance of failing or not working as intended. Also, better options exist. Now that I have categorized the weapons, I can move into some more depth on the three categories of ships. An aggressive ship will typically only take kill weapons. The goal is to move in, destroy the armor, and kill the ship in a single engagement. We're talking engagements lasting less than 10 seconds. Anything longer than that, and there's a risk of the engagement failing for a number of reasons. This is why these ships are typically close range ships. The Hades and Mercury usually take longer to destroy the armor and are less reliable than the trusted Gatling. However, a greased Hades with a flak is a good example of how it is possible to create a medium-ranged aggressive ship. It just hurts if that Hades and flak gunner miss, and they will more than likely lose the engagement if they do. A reactive ship usually wants something to help control the enemy. This is the nature of being reactive. Reactive ships don't normally get to have the advantage of choosing when or how to engage. They get to choose where to engage. Therefore, it is typical to see them equipped with control guns. Lumberjack, Artemis, and mine launchers are fairly common on reactive ships. This is to ensure they have a contingency plan in case their positioning is unfavorable. Control ships focus purely on disrupting enemy positions and fires. However, they should never give up the potential to kill. A carronade flamer squid can be great to down an enemy ship, but they have no quick way to get the kill. No control ship should be taking only control guns. Their job is to deny the enemy the ability to fight and eventually kill them. This can be done by being aggressive or reactive. It depends entirely on the ship and team. Usually control ships take Artemis, Mine Launcher, Lumberjack, Banshees, and sometimes Light Carronade. Now, I would like to show the ships that I use. I would consider these ships to be meta, although with the player base this game has, that's a hard term to use. However, all these ships have proven successful in SCS at some point or another. They each fall into one or more categories, and I would like to say they are optimal builds if you want to win. Okay, so the first ship I want to show is the Galleon. This is more of what's considered the meta Galleon. It's definitely a reactive ship. It can do a lot of damage if the Flaks and the Hades hit, but it requires prior positioning before engaging in order to get those kills, those pops, and the armor breaks that you need. The next Galleon I usually use is the Gatling with the Washa as opposed to the Hades and Flak, and that's because I'm going against an aggressive ship. So it's still a reactive ship in nature, but it gives me the ability to fight an aggressive ship, usually like a Goldfish or a Pyramidian. Next one that I use is the Gatling with the Watches. This is still a reactive ship, but I guess it falls more into the hybrid category. It can be used aggressively if you get in the right position, so I'd say this is more of an aggressive reactive hybrid. Next ship I'll usually use is the Pyramidian with the Gatling Artemis. This is an aggressive control ship. Artemis gets the disables, Gat gets the armor breaks, really good for that. Next one I'll use is the Gatling Mortar Pyramidian, and this is definitely a aggressive ship. Now a lot of people for this first one, instead of a Gatling, will put a carronade, and I completely disagree with that. The Gatling provides you armor breaks, the Artemis provides you disables. If the Artemis misses, the Gatling can still provide you disables. The carronade just limits you to only being able to shoot the balloon with it, and it takes a lot longer to get the kill. You should still be focusing on getting the kill, so that lack of a kill gun on the front I just think is a bad idea, and I really haven't seen it used to great success anywhere personally when I'm fighting it. Next one I'd like to show is the aggressive Spire. Pretty simple. It's still a reactive ship in nature because of the Spire's weaknesses, so you gotta wait for the enemy to make a mistake and then you go out and capitalize on it and you be aggressive about it. If you try to stick purely to being aggressive with this ship, probably not going to turn out too well. On the opposite end of that spectrum, you got more of a control reactive ship. This one is still reactive because it's a Spire, but you can your focus is to control the enemy. You got the mine launcher on the bottom, to control them down there in case you're going against an aggressive ship. Now I know you're saying, well, where's the kill gun? Well, the Lumberjack will eventually break that armor, especially if they're bouncing up and down on the ground. So even though there's no kill gun on this one, the Lumberjack does fulfill that role pretty nicely. It does eventually break armor. Those are the only two Spires I'll use. Then we got the Modula. This is the Hades up top, double Artemis on the bottom. This is definitely more of a reactive control build. I put a mine launcher on mine, and I'll put a flare if I'm going like somewhere, like Northern Fjords or something. But a lot of times I prefer to have the mine launcher. It gives a little bit more control to the ship. So yeah, this one you just focus on disables, and eventually you'll get the kills when the Hades breaks their armor, or the Gatling if they get too close. Another one is the Mercury on top, same thing, more of a reactive build, but it definitely has a lot of disable potential, so you could try to label it as control, but that number 3 gun should be used to break their armor. It's pretty much just a longer distance meta mob. And then this is the control Modula, purely control with that mine launcher on top, requires a good gunner, and the Artemis on the bottom just disable the guns. Eventually you'll get armor breaks, you'll chip them away slowly but surely, but you control their space and you control their guns. So purely control. You don't even have to be reactive with this build. You can actually be the aggressor if you want, because you get to control the space if you have a good enough gunner. Watch a fish, hybrid, get in there, disable, get the Gat armor breaks, get the kill, or use the carronade and control their altitude. It's a hybrid. Next one is the Carrowfish. I use Banshees on the side. I've seen a multitude of different weapons. I think Banshee is the best, personally. The only other thing I'd be happy with putting on there is a mine launcher to help control some space, but this is what I prefer using. And this is definitely, again, a control. It's a hybrid of control and aggressiveness, or aggressive. Junker, this is the one I like to use primarily. It's just a reactive on the left side with control elements on the right. I'd label this as more of a reactive ship in nature though. The right side, mine launcher Banshee, is just to go against aggressive ships, hold them at bay. Next one, same build on the left side. On the right side I got the Gatling Flak, and this takes away the control elements and makes it really just a pure reactive ship. I'll use the Gatling and Flak on the right side if I'm not going against too aggressive of a ship. Just gives me more options to get the kills faster, and just overall just more options. And then this is pure control. I can kind of be the aggressor in this, but I'm more still being reactive. You see a trend here. The broadside ships are just more reactive in nature. The gun platform ships, the Modula, the Junker, and the Galleon, and the Spire. All four are gun platforms more than anything else, and they all happen to be more fall into the realm of reactive. It's not a coincidence. So yeah, just control space with the mines, control their guns a tidbit with the Artemis. It's more of just helping me out more than anything, and then try to get the kills with Banshees. Next one is Squid. Squid is going to be more of an aggressive ship in nature, but this one is kind of an aggressive ship. A little bit of control with the carronade, but it's still mostly there just to get the kills as fast as you can. Same with this one, Gatling on the front instead of the carronade. And then this one is more control than anything else. It's not going to get the kills too quickly unless you use the rear gun, but its primary purpose is to control space, so it's a control aggressive ship. And this last one, Artemis on front, again, that's more of an option. It's just there to help out, so this is still more of an aggressive ship. You're just trying to get in there and get the kills with that Gat Mortar. The Artemis just helps do that by closing the gap. And that's all 7 ships. Those are the 7 that I use and the variants and how I categorize them. They each have strengths and weaknesses, which I don't want to go into for this video as that would take a long time to explain and is a video in and of itself. The important thing to note is that each ship falls into a different category without any consideration to guns just because of the ship's capabilities and layouts. The Junker, Galleon, Modula, Spire, commonly thought to be ships that are gun platforms, are reactive. The Squid, Pyramidion, and Goldfish are aggressive. Certain gun combinations turn them into hybrids and change the way they fight and give them that control strategy. Hopefully this video helped you understand the game a bit more. It certainly helped me get better acquainted with the elements of the game. If you liked the video, please subscribe. I have other videos like this and intend on releasing one each Saturday. Thanks for watching.